Hello, world. I'm Farsight, and this is Kerbal Space Program. We have a career going using RP1 and KOS, and that career has gotten to the point now where we have launched a sounding rocket and a downrange rocket. We're proceeding along, and things are beginning to get a bit expensive. And after our last launch, I thought we need to sit back and look at what we want to do. So let's load up the save for the beginning of the episode. So we have our stable starting point. And we need to decide what we want to do next. Well, between the ending of the last recording and the beginning of this one, I took a look at the available contracts and I compared them with the capabilities of the rockets that we can build, which is the S1 sounding rocket and the D1 downrange rocket and the D2 downrange rocket with camera. We've built a D1 and we've built a D2. We launched the D1. That's great. Well, what can we do? Our next sounding rocket things are to head up to 80 and 130 kilometers with 50 liters of payload. And our current sounding rocket cannot get that much payload above 40 kilometers. The next one is hit 140 kilometers and have a parachute. Well, we can't even hit 140 kilometers. And that's even without looking at the parachute. Turns out if we redesign the rocket to use the engines and the solid rocket booster that we just unlocked in science, we still can't do those. We're close. We're really close. We can't do them. So we have to wait for the tanks. And right now that is post-war materials science, which is due on May 14th of next year. We need more people doing science. We really do. On the downrange side, we've already committed to doing this D2 rocket. So I don't want to schedule things up. But we do have the capability of doing downrange distance LD development intermediate again. We've got the LV development difficult, which our current D1 can do. And of course, D2 is going to be doing our low space film return. I think there's a follow-up that it will be able to do, but I couldn't see the follow-up on the contract list quite yet. So given that we can't do any contracts with what we know in science now, we have to sit back and accrue some science and such. What can we do? Well, I can continue to launch S1s. So I set up an S1N and an S1S and poked around, and there is some science we can pick up by going north and south. So let's set those up. Basically, what I want to do is I want to launch 2 rockets heading slightly north and 2 rockets heading slightly south, and those will passively collect some science, and that should all finish off at about the right time. I kind of glanced at the calendar and worked out, they're 3 weeks each, and I added it all up, and I thought, yeah, it looks like that's about right. So let's open up S1N. This is the S1 rocket, tilted 5 degrees north. And if we set this to LCS, we can bring up the plans, and we can add that to the plan because it can be built at LCS. We now can go to S1's south. So N was 5 degrees north. So we're going to go just a little ways north, which gets us over the shores and over the water, and kind of spends as much time over shores as possible. S is 10 degrees south because there's a lot of forest to our south. We're going to put that on our plan. Now the problem is that currently we have no engineers hired at LCS. Staff. We have 12,000 funds. Staffing window. Let's close some of this stuff up. What does our budget look like? Currently, we are accruing $2,000 per month, which we could spend on salaries, and we have $12,000. So I am going to hire 10 engineers and assign them to LCS. LCD still has its 77 maximum. The other thing I want to look at is researchers. So with 30 researchers, research teams are costing me $18,000. But that's 600-ish per 10 researchers. I could put 20 more researchers on the job and get some of this science happening faster, which is going to be important because science is starting to get more expensive. We have some more science we want to add on down here. Once we fire off these S1 rockets north and south, we're going to have some science to spend. So I'm going to hire 20 more researchers. Notice what that did to our budget. We now have 3,000 Kerbucks in the bank. Hope we don't have to spend much. We are spending $3,200 per month on the integration teams, which are building rockets, and $3,000 a month on the research team. And I completely forgot that we're going to be spending money on the integration teams for the S1 rockets. The subsidy is covering $3,000, and our program budget is covering the rest. We have $700 per month, which I hope is enough to cover building those S1s that I didn't put on my list. We're going to close this, bring up plans. I want to go north, south, north, south. And these cost 70 Kerbucks each to add to the schedule. And they increased the spending on our integration teams slightly because now the integration teams for S are now busy. And here's what our calendar looks like. So it is now, I don't have the calendar date on the screen here, but we're going to be finishing up reconditioning the D launch complex in a day, in a bit. October 22nd, which is in 23 days, north, and then south, and then north, and then south. This is 23 days each. As we build, we're going to get a little faster. So, yeah, our last launch is on December 25th, probably sooner. D2 is going to be in stock and ready to roll out on January 2nd. So we've got about a week there. Maybe this will happen faster. D2, where we are then going to roll out and launch, and shortly after that, most material science has been brought into February 28, and tracking systems is going to be coming in August 6. Tracking systems is, that's about what our upcoming science is going to take us. So we still are spending 160 days on science, even with 50 researchers going. So back to the center. Now we have 10 science we can spend, so I am going to spend my 10 science queuing up some more things. The important things are already in process. We've got better engines and better SRBs already set up. We've got one set of upgrades available to us. We don't do as much good until we get the better tanks. And after that, we've got tracking systems, which is going to be a better science core for our sounding rocket. So this is just sounding rockets. And of course, the biological samples that we need to move forward along that particular program. Early science gets us the advanced biological capsule, which is the capstone for one of our space programs. But we don't really need to have it in hand until we've got rockets that can satisfy the rest of our capstone missions. So I think our next priorities are going to be early rocketry and solid rocket engines and materials science. I don't think I can queue up all of them on 10.6. This is 3 and 2, and that's 13. I will queue up early rocketry and rocket engines, and I should be getting enough science from my sounding rockets to queue up materials science. If not, well, we've got a lot of time ahead of us to collect more science for that. So that extends our calendar. Woohoo! Look at that. We have science planned all the way out through September 2nd of 53, and it's now, that's about 2 years out in the future. We have set our researchers their particular goals of what we want to get done, and they've told us how long it will take, and we are happy with that. So now I'm going to start warping forward. The S1s, we've already had an S1 launch, which we looked at in detail, and it worked beautifully. With these, I hope they work, but if they fail, I'm not going to rerun them. So we have 2 launches north, 2 launches south. Whichever ones fail, we're not going to worry about it because we don't get a whole lot of science out of each one. And I don't want to continue building sounding rockets when I'm dealing with the downrange here. Once we get the downrange done, then I'll figure out whether I want to build more sounding rockets or not. So, we're not going to be automatically adding any rockets to our plan. Warp to complete. We're going to be doing this a lot. Now we're ready to go. Normally we would turn on the contracts to see what contract we're working on. This rocket doesn't do this contract, so we are just doing science. So there we are. And go up to X4 time. Starting to run our science here. We're going to get temperature and pressure readings. Pressure is just for the altitude. So this is pressure for Earth flying high. Temperature is Earth flying high over a particular biome. So when we maximize our pressure here, we maximize it for all biomes. So all we have left now to gather is temperature. We're going to do that for shores and water and forest. We're doing it for shores right now. Our rocket will eventually go past the beach and it'll be doing it for water. And once we get down below 40 kilometers, I will use the launch abort system to clean it up before it hits a fishing boat. No more science for this rocket, so all done. Yes, I like explosions. So back to the Space Center, where we're going to warp forward to the next minor flight. Once again, we are doing science. This time we are headed south. And big credit we've got. So we're not going to face that, but it does cost cash up front to start rockets up when you start building them. So we're almost done with the temperature scan here, Forest. Didn't notice if we maxed out the scans to the north. We can check that. Filter by current vessel, temperature scan. At the bottom, we see that flying high, we are at 6.7 on the. So we're not quite maxed out in shores and water. We are maxed out in the forest. So since we're maxed out, I can blow this guy up. So we are January 11th, 1952. This is D-2-1 launch. And I'm going to check administration. I forgot something here. I knew it. Picking a leader. Each one of these guys, you can put them in as administration. They each have some bonuses and penalties. So for instance, Cholemy reduces cost for program activation, confidence cost, and increases speed of launch complex efficiency gains, but the amount of reputation from contracts goes down, so on. Now, I'm just going to do Warner von Braun. That matches what's in the tutorial. Also, it's actually a pretty good setup. You get more confidence from your contracts, get more reputation for your contracts. The downside is that reputation loss from decay is up. However, our reputation loss rates are very, very low already. So the downside of Werner von Braun is not very big. The other one is Satish Dhawan. More science, less reputation loss, reputation Less funds. I really like this guy because this isn't very much of a bonus, and that's possibly a problem. And Dr. Rosen, faster research, more confidence, but less time and less funds. So we're going to go with Werner von Braun. Bada boom. And I just realized that if we hard load from that save, we lose Werner von Braun. So at this point, I am going to clean up the launch pad. And I'm going to drop the hard save again with Werner von Braun all set. So it's A 1952-0111-17-4402. It says D21. Save. And let's delete the bogus save. This guy needs to go away, or we have to reselect Werner von Braun. And that's where we're going to come back to shortly. I need a quick break. I will see you on the other side. And if I don't get the video up and you've got nothing else to do, well, hey, go and have some fun.